I have some questions. I have some things that I am going to be tracking as we enter the second half of the season or the post All-Star break portion of the season, starting on Thursday night.
Oh, okay.
And so there are some obvious ones that I'm not going to talk about either because they don't super interest me right now, or because we're doing this podcast twice a week and we just talk and write about hoops a bunch. We're going to end up hitting on this a little bit later anyway, type beats. So like honorable mentions, naturally there's going to be a lot of conversation around what the lottery race is going to be, who's getting shut down, yada, 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 who ends up jockeying in the tankathon standings. Adam Silver had his presser. That was the thing.
We've done enough about that. Next.
That's what I'm saying. We're setting that to the side. That's going to be there. Naturally, we are going to be talking more award stuff as the season goes on. So I don't feel the need to do like, I'm curious about insert race here. We're going to talk about that stuff moving forward. So we'll save that for another time as well. And we're going to do more Laker talks. I'm setting the Lakers aside for a moment. Get healthy. We know, will the defense hit a level? We've had that conversation. We'll set that there. Now, as far as things that I'm intrigued by, Steve, there are two teams in the Western Conference in particular that are on high alert for me. Talked about them recently, but they're on high alert for me. The Minnesota Timberwolves, fresh off of Anthony Edwards winning the weekend, performing at a high level, All-Star Game MVP, etc. How serious are y'all going to be? Because at the high end, this is a top 10 offense. This is a top 10 defense. Anthony Edwards can score and ultimately can match the performance of just about anyone in the league on any given night. We know this. You have the defense baked in with Rudy Gobert, Jaden McDaniels, and when he's locked in, etc. Ayo Dosunmu, we recently talked about what he adds to this group as a reserve and a potential closing option. This is a very good team that I need to realize that they are a very good basketball team. I'm not going to reheat the whole rant, but I am keeping an eye on how the Wolves come out of the All-Star break. Do they win, 4 of their first 5 at the break? It kind of set the tone. Because, they have some real upward mobility opportunity here, Steve, with where they are in the standings. If they come out on some nonsense, they could slide to the play. Phoenix is right there. So I'm keeping an eye on the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I am also keeping an eye on the Houston Rockets, who have been, in terms of the standings, they have been one of the best teams in basketball this year. If you zoom out, even with how they entered the All-Star break, this is a team, as of recording, 6th in offense, 4th in defense, 6th in net rating per cleaning the glass. They are a game behind the Denver Nuggets right now for the 3 seed. They're only 2 games ahead of Phoenix for 7. So, similar to Minnesota, you come out, lose 3 of your first 5, you may be in a different spot. And that's independent of what maybe Golden State does come out to bring stuff like that. It can really get tight in that 6-day range. So keep an eye on that. But since January 1st, Steve, the Houston Rockets, 13-10, which is fine, but very much off the pace that they were earlier in the year. 23rd in offensive rating per cleaning the glass since January 1st. They are 29th in half-court offense. They have a 90.4 offensive rating in the half-court since the calendar turn this year, Steve. And we are not super far removed from doing a Houston Rockets breakdown with their offense and talking about some of the tempo things, how they're dealing with physicality, the overall shooting talent, how does Reed Shepherd factor into this? Is he closing lineups? Are they finding enough answers defensively so he can add the juice offensively and things? Houston is very good. I think there is real Western Conference Finals potential here especially if they end up in the 2-7 or the 3-6 side of the bracket. But they have to solve their offense to a degree. They have to be a better team in the half court. You need better tempo. You need better pace. You need a little bit more variety in your half court offense. You need a better version of Alperen Şengün. In tight moments, you need a better answer for Amen Thompson if teams are going to put more bigs on him. So I'm just wondering what are the Houston Rockets going to look like? And not going to hang here because we are still gathering information. But in light of all of the KD Twitter stuff, there's also just an element of hey, what is the general vibe of Houston right now heading into the break? So I'm going to be keeping an eye on that too. But more importantly, it's more, can they get this offense in order? Because 29th in half-court offense for 23 games, that's just not going to get it done. That is just screaming first-round exit, if this is what the offense is going to be. So my eyes on Minnesota and Houston, but I am really curious about what Houston's going to look like. Is that fair?
Did you just rehash the Houston breakdown that we did?
Hey, listen, link below. Go ahead and click there.
We already talked about it. If they have to fix that either way, they're still the 4 seed in the Western Conference. They're a game behind Denver for 3rd. I think they just have to figure out how to execute consistently offensively. If they do that, they could rise. They could be the 3 seed. You could be setting yourself up for a Houston-Minnesota first round series where you're just going to be mad at whoever loses. So I would be careful with that. I mean, I think the thing for me is these teams, it's the Western Conference, right? These teams have massive, massive positives. They have flaws that can be exploited and will be exploited about these against these teams that they are facing. The Rockets are 18-7 at home. So they have an opportunity to build some wins up with their home stretch. Minnesota has got to find a way to get their game to travel and win games on the road. But these are like the Wolves are virtually tied with the Lakers for the 5 seed. They're a half game behind Houston. They're only a game and a half behind Denver. That 4-team shuffle is going to be very interesting because they're all going to end up facing each other. And Phoenix is still knocking on the door. But the battle between Denver, Houston, Los Angeles, and the Wolves is going to be really hard to deal with because there's a high likelihood all those teams are going to face each other. 2 of them will be eliminated in the first round. And so it's hard to avoid because San Antonio, while it hasn't been always pretty, they've always found a way to say, hey, we're just going to stay here at number 2. And we might knock on the door, Oklahoma City. So watch out for that. But I mean, this is what the Western Conference is. It's a gauntlet. And so for Houston, absolutely, yeah, they got to fix the offense. But you need to get yourself in a position where that defense is strong. And now when you have a game plan mentality coming to playoffs, could that help you out more? Could you be a matchup dependent type beat? Are you better suited for a playoff series than the regular season? How does that help you? Same thing for Minnesota. And so that's where it becomes tricky. When you look at Denver, Houston, the Lakers, and the Wolves, you can see playoff upside with each of those teams, especially if Denver can get healthy to a certain degree. But Houston, the Lakers, and Minnesota, not really teams you want to face in a playoff series. Houston because of their defense, and they can take things away. And then, okay, we're methodical in the half court. I think, honestly, a big piece of what Houston's missing has been Alper and Şengün going backwards and teams saying, hey, go ahead, drive. We're going to stay at home. It's fine. Do whatever you got to do. For the Lakers, they have to get their defense to a certain level. For Minnesota, they have to make sure they compete at a high enough level every single night. They have what it takes defensively. They've made the improvements offensively. So it's now what's going to stick. And you got to remember, this is the time of year where it's a sprint to the playoffs. And so there's not a lot of time. There's not a lot of wiggle room. And so, yeah, maybe Houston was 29th in half court offense. How will that feel differently if that defense goes up another level or they're able to kind of compete at a different level? How does that kind of factor in? Look, I think it's concern is fine, but these teams are going to face each other and they're going to have to deal with each other. And so it's just like, okay, what are we weighing? Because all these are going to be the matchups unless Phoenix goes on a tremendous run. These 4 teams are likely going to face each other in the first round.
Yeah, that's fair. I think as of right now, like you mentioned, San Antonio knocking on the door. San Antonio quietly just 3 games behind OKC. So like any kind of slide, and the Spurs currently riding a 6-game winning streak, or they were riding a 6-game winning streak heading into All-Star break. So we'll see if that continues on Thursday against the Phoenix Suns, funny enough. But the Suns in 7th, only a game and a half behind Minnesota as of recording. So I don't know. It wouldn't take much of a run for Phoenix to get into that run, or get into that race rather. So we'll keep tabs on that. Last couple of things for me while I'm thinking about the Western Conference. Like the big thing I wanted to bring up with OKC, who still best record in the league, though Detroit knocking on the door overall, if you want to zoom that out. And again, 3 games ahead of San Antonio right now. It's really just keeping an eye on Jalen Williams. Like there's like a natural, like, hey, just how healthy will everyone be? That is a general league-wide storyline to keep track of as you mentioned, get to the sprint to the second half of the year. The healthier teams are going to be better set up for playoff pushes. But Jalen Williams has been recovering from the wrist injury, came back, went out again, has now returned again. He is coming off of one of the most efficient games of his career heading into the All-Star break. Funny enough, coming against the Phoenix Suns, 27-point victory there. Jalen Williams missed a singular shot in that basketball game. But OKC, and sorry for the duh analysis, they're at their best when Shea is playing at the level that he's playing at, and I think he is the easy front runner for MVP right now. And when Jalen Williams is also producing at an all-star / all-NBA level. And I think if Jalen Williams is able to find a level of comfort in the half court in particular as a scorer, like I don't worry about the playmaking that much. I don't worry about the defense. Like even as he was working himself in the rhythm, the defense has just been very good for Jalen Williams again. So it's more so in the half court, how often is he getting to the rim? And by proxy, how often is he getting to the free throw line? What is the balance between I am driving and getting all the way to the rim? I am driving and at least getting into the paint for some of the short pull-up jumpers that he likes. How often are these like 1 or 2 dribble drives? I'm picking this up early for a deeper pull-up, or I'm kicking the ball out for someone else to try to make an advantage. And OKC, they do still have like AJ Mitchell and others that can puncture those gaps. But the best version of Jalen Williams is someone that is uber aggressive and is getting downhill a little bit deeper and making quicker decisions. So for me, it's just more so tracking how consistently will we get that version of Jalen Williams? Because if we get that, or if OKC gets that, naturally, the Thunder have already proven they're the best team in the league. They are coming off of a championship run. If Jalen Williams hits that level with Shea playing like this and with the defense still being incredibly good, you have Chet, you eventually have Isaiah Hartenstein. You keep an eye on his health as well for just going the overall health thing. But Jalen Williams seems like the most important player to track with OKC in particular. Shea's obviously the best. I'm just keeping an eye on what form he's going to be in. Because if he's good, the Thunder ceiling gets even higher, and the Western Conference is not going to be fun for anyone that has to deal with OKC. So I'm keeping tabs on Jalen Williams.
Understood. I am keeping tabs on who takes the second spot in the Eastern Conference. I think the Pistons are stamped, but is Boston going to take it, or the Knicks going to take it, or the Cavs going to make a run? Who gets the 2 in the East gets real interesting to me. Because I think we're kind of settled to a degree as far as the order, I think. Like, I don't know if Orlando and Miami push into the playoffs. Could be surprised, could be wrong. But I think the Raptors and Sixers have been too solid for majority of the year. But who can kind of make that push to where, okay, is it Boston that's going to grab a hold of this? We've seen the Knicks play extremely well, going into the All-Star break. But we've seen the Cavs be on this run, and they're only going to get better as you have more time with James Harden. So who kind of elevates to that second spot? Because now that's going to mean, okay, you guys are going to have to face each other in the conference semifinals in theory. And Detroit's been a machine all year. Hopefully they get the respect they deserve, because they've earned the right to be not only at the top of the East, they're almost at the top of the NBA. And so I'm intrigued by that part of the Eastern Conference.
I'm glad you said Captain there, because like I just scrolled over. Like I actually want to correct something that I said a little bit earlier. I said, hey, OKC, Detroit kind of battling for that top spot. In terms of win percentage, Steve, because the Thunder have the most wins in the NBA, Detroit Pistons, they currently have the best win percentage in the NBA right now. So like they absolutely deserve their respect. Like obviously big gap from them and the rest of the Eastern Conference right now. But yeah, like them and OKC, they've been battling for most of the year. They now have the best win percentage. Like very slight, but shout out to the league best Detroit Pistons right now. So to your point, Steve, about the top of the East in particular, something that I had in my notes was like, hey, are we going to see Jason Tatum? Because we're talking about, hey, is Boston going to, cement themselves as the second best team in the Eastern Conference, or even the best team in the Eastern Conference once we get to the playoffs? I think standings wise, Detroit just kind of has it. Jason Tatum continues to work out, continues to do more. Jaylen Brown was asked during All-Star Weekend, like, hey, what have you seen from Jason Tatum in particular? It's like, hey, I didn't get to see his most recent workout, but in the other ones, like, he looks good. He looks close. If we're talking about a Jason Tatum that, comes back mid-March, let's say, and he's just, we're going to play you 20 to 24 minutes a game through the rest of the regular season just to kind of warm you in. Like, that helps their defense. That helps their defensive rebounding, which has been probably the weakest point of their profile so far this year. And he is a guy that can be used as a screener to poke at mismatches, can be used as a screener if you're putting 2 on the ball against Jalen or one of these other guards. If you're talking about defenses that are just naturally aggressive, Jason Tatum can make short role plays for you. Like he still is going to have the spot up shooting or the isolation scoring in his bag. So even if it isn't all NBA level Jason Tatum, if he comes back, like that's helpful for half of a game. if we're just setting that as like a baseline for him. So just a general, does he come back? And if he does, like how quickly does he round into whatever his form is going to be? Because I think regardless, the best version of Jason Tatum is going to be more of a next season thing in my eyes at the very least. But if we get to, he makes a return in mid-March or something like that, he plays in the postseason for Boston, and he is 85% of himself, Boston has already proven like we have an argument for the second best team in the East, if not the best team in the East for just look like overall net rating and stuff like that. Adding Tatum to that bunch makes that case even stronger. So I am naturally keeping an eye on what that part's going to look like for Boston.